Welcome to the OTA podcast where we discuss everything performance training. I'm Coach Chris Barnard. Let's get into it. Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the OTA podcast, everything strength and performance related. For this next question, this is a question, again, that keeps coming up in our coaching group. I get emails from different coaches, talk with a lot of you coaches out in the Instagram and the DMs. One of the biggest ones that I get is the coaches who actually own gyms or have a coaching business. They're always asking about leads. So I figured I'd make a video about the three main pipelines that I focus on when generating leads into our gym. Now, it's very similar as far as online goes if you're an online coach, so you might be able to grab some gems from this. But the biggest thing that I do is I look at everything from a system or a structure standpoint. So first and foremost, I start off with a emphasis that we're placing. So each month, no matter what it is, and I could break this down by quarter, you could break this down by month, I'm constantly focused on three main pipelines for my gym. Number one, which is usually our most prevalent source, is going to be online, right? So this is going to be everything online, essentially. I'll go through these real quick, and then I'm going to get deeper into them. Number two is going to be offline. What are my strategies and tactics that I'm doing that aren't on the internet to be able to generate more leads? And then finally is going to be in-house. And this is going to be everything from, basically from a referral standpoint. How do I use my current client base to generate more leads, right? How do I get their friends in here? So if I'm constantly focused on these three strategies every single month, all that changes is the strategy within each of these three things. I always use, and forgive me if you've listened to me before talk about this, but I use the metaphor of when my dad used to, when we used to grow up, he'd take us fishing. If he was unfamiliar with the place, he would always have multiple poles out, and he would put multiple baits out to see what's biting, right? So if you're offshore fishing, let's say you're going offshore fishing and you're figuring out what's down there, right? Let's say you drop like a squid at the bottom. Let's say you do a live shrimp, or let's say you do a white bait or a greenback, right? You're just figuring out what's biting down there and figuring out how do you increase your chances. And then once you figure it out, you can double down on that thing. But you're always having those three things running simultaneously, and you're just rotating the strategies between those three. So to get into it real quick and just kind of give you some examples. Now, online, I break down to guerrilla and I break down to paid advertisement. Now, guerrilla is going to be all your strategies that are, I guess you could say, a little bit more unorthodox, but this is really where if you don't have equity, you got to put in sweat equity. You got to roll your sleeve up. You got to do the work, whether this be figuring out how to grow your social media following, how to outbound reach out through direct messages, how to put stories up on your social media and get somebody to respond with a call to action, how to email people in your local area and continue to sit behind a desk and work through a computer and be able to craft the right email to be able to generate leads from maybe a company or from an individual or from a coach. To me, the biggest thing, and just not to give you any fluff, is just social media, right? How are you growing your social media in your local area, and how are you utilizing that following to generate leads? And there's different tactics and strategies. Now, on the paid advertisement side, we all know, is just basically essentially running the right offer, the right lead magnet to a wide audience in your local area to essentially get the most amount of leads. The biggest thing that you're going to want to look for there is having the most enticing lead magnet, right? And the thing that I love about paid advertisement is it's math. I'm a math guy. So if I put, X amount of money into this machine, and then I can put them through a sequence and get them in the door and get them signed up, and I know my percentages, I can then just reverse engineer and do the math and say, hey, for every $1,000 I put in, I'm going to get 15 clients that are going to pay me this much for this long. And it's just a matter of being able to do that. And that's how you're making your business more predictable if you can figure out that math. So that's everything from a paid advertisement. That's being able to invest into your training business. And if you figure out the right lead magnet that's going to drive down the cost per lead, overall cost per customer, and you can really nail that down, you can really start to scale your gym business up. And that's why I say that's our most prevalent source. What's up, coaches? Real quickly, let me go ahead and introduce you to Performance Coach U certification. Now, this is the certification / course that I put together for coaches who want to train athletes and not only get results, but also maximize profits in the private sector. The problem that I saw with a lot of these courses and certifications out there for coaches was that they provided a lot of information and not a lot of application. So I wanted to pull back the covers over 10+ years of experience and show you the ins and outs of actually being in the trenches so that you get maximum results while also scaling your business. So if you're interested in this, go ahead and check out the link down below and you can get more information. Next, moving to offline. Now, even though this takes a little bit more time, takes a little bit more everything belly to belly, and is a little bit more predicated on the actual coach's charisma and personality, I think that you always got to be developing these relationships in your local area. For instance, we're in St. Petersburg, Florida. I want to say we have over 25 plus high schools, if you're counting both private and public, in our local area. And then you're talking about maybe another 17 middle schools. And I'm talking about that we've actually experienced come here, like that are in distance to be able to come here. So if you kind of do the math on that, I think there's like 280 on average per high school, right? Obviously you're taking the schools that are bigger and then the small private schools, but the average is about 280 athletes per school. So if you like look at that math, that's how many, that's the pool of athletes we have to pull from that might not be on Facebook, that might not be on Instagram, right? And so that's a large number. And then if you go down, I think it's like 140 something in middle school, average amount of athletes per middle school. And so now you're just multiplying that into a bigger number. So one of the reasons why I love offline is because you're able to develop those relationships with the coaches in your local area, the ADs in your local area, the teachers. You just got to get out in front of them, and you got to offer value. And that's usually, there's nuance to it. There's strategies to it, right? But for the most part, that's that pipeline that deals with everything of just getting out and getting in front of the coaches, introducing yourself, introducing your service, and just letting them know you're there to support them. Again, there's different ways that you could do it. I won't get into those now, but the biggest thing is just getting the ball rolling. I always tell this story. I got with the local baseball coach here, and we started talking. First, it was just an easy touch point. Then it was next season, it was, hey, really wanting to help you out in any way I can. Didn't work out. Next thing you know, we're on that third off season, and I get the entire team in here. And then we had those for a season, but then we had multiple players, double-digit players that had stayed with us throughout their entire career. And now I tell a funny joke because we have two of those athletes that started off in that high school that are in our Gen Pop classes. So that just goes to show you that that relationship and that effort is not in vain. You're going to get doors slammed in your face. You're going to get people who don't talk to you. But I'm constantly pushing myself and our coaches here to be able to get out into the community and touch base with these people. There's other ways that you could do offline. We call it a method blanket the city, but that's just basically flyering. And that's just getting out there again, rolling your sleeves up and just doing the dirty work that other people won't do. And I think that's time tested. I think going out there, having those conversations is always going to work. I remember in my experience with LA Fitness, we had to go set up tables in front of a mall. I hated doing it, but I always have that experience and I've had success doing it. So if you're able to get somebody and get them off the street, turn them into a prospect or lead and get them in your gym and signing up for your services, you will always have a business in this game. You will always be able to thrive because you know what it takes at the darkest time and the hardest time, how to go get a client. Right? And so if you do that, I think it's an important exercise that all gyms and coaches should be able to do. The last one is going to be, just like the online and just as important as all three, in-house is going to be one of your biggest because it's exponential. And what I mean by that is the bigger your base grows, the more referrals you're going to get, right? This is common sense. If I have 10 athletes, right, I have 10 opportunities to get referrals from those athletes. Well, if I have 100 athletes, then I have 100 opportunities, right? So, there's a nuance like anything of how you ask and the different touch points of when to ask. But what we notice is with athletes is in-house is one of our biggest, because they all want, and especially if you frame it right, they all want to bring their friends in. They all want to make sure that they let their teammates know. And then from a parent's perspective, parents don't want the fear of missing out for their child, right? So they get severe FOMO for their child. So if little Timmy is in here and he's getting great success, all the other parents are going to line up and make sure that they get their kid in the door, because they were able to see little Timmy go from sitting on the bench to hitting home runs or whatever it is, right? But we experience this over and over again, and parents just want to make sure that their child's on the up and up. And so they'll get their kid in here and they'll do what they need to do to get them in the door. And again, it's just about how you ask and how you get them. So I think that pretty much covers it all. I just wanted to kind of touch base on 3 things that you should be doing at all times and what that actually looks like within those 3 pipelines. That's something that we rotate through. Each one of those has about 5 to 6 strategies within each of those pipelines that we just simply rotate through. I'll know different times of the year, because athletes are very seasonal, what ones we want to focus on. For instance, it was just summer, so we run a summer program, right? So we advertise different. Our lead magnet is different, and you just need to make sure that you're capitalizing on those seasons, when to pull back, when to put a little bit more time, when to maybe scale back your paid advertisement and put a little bit more effort on guerrilla, because maybe people, ad cost is way through the roof and your ROI isn't as great. So it's knowing what strings to pull as you get through those seasons. And if you're focused on those 3 just to start off, you're going to continuously replenish those leads and get new clients into your gym. So I hope that helps. I'll talk to you guys next time.